Well, it's been an interesting January so far. A very interesting January. Actually, an interesting season. Arsenal have all but qualified for the Champions League round of 16. Can you believe that? They have done it without a striker. They have done it against all odds when everyone thought this team is rubbish. This team has nothing about them. Sack the manager, there was crying. Sack the manager, sack the board, sack the owners, sack everyone. Because Arsenal can't do anything. And I was one who said they were broke. Well, that part is true. I'm Ty Knight here for TK24 Sports. If you're new to the show, like, subscribe, turn that notification on so you don't miss a show every time we upload. Let's get into this breaking news. Arsenal have all but qualified for the Champions League of the last round of the 16th, shall I say. And that is amazing news. Arsenal, without a striker all season, all last season, and the season before that, and the season before that, have somehow managed to get through the new Champions League format. It's still the Champions League, but they sit third in the league of the Champions League. Liverpool lead the way, 7 wins out of 7. Then it's Barcelona, then it's Arsenal, and then teams after that. Who cares who's after Arsenal? Really and truly, I don't care. But what I do care is Arsenal do need front players. They need people on the left, they need people on the right, and they definitely need people up front. But if you was asking me which one's more important to add this season, I would say it's going to be a right winger. Because having Raheem Sterling on the right is a concern more than having Kai Havertz up front. Now, you may disagree with that. You may say, Ty, that's rubbish. In that case, why don't we just go for both? But the way I look at it is this. After watching Raheem Sterling play again last night, even though it was his first start in the Champions League, he offers next to nothing. At least with Kai, he offers something. And that's the big difference. If someone offers next to nothing, then really and truly, you don't want that in a team. If someone offers something, you have something to build on. The only thing we can label at Kai Havertz is he's just goal shy. He's just not a goal getter. But he did score last night. He did score a header. He did make an assist for Declan Rice, who had a decent game. And it was a great finish, may I add. But when you saw Ethan Ranieri come on the pitch and taking the place of a Raheem Sterling, it was light and day. The kid is only 18 years old, if that. And when he comes on, he's more direct. And Sterling is direct, but he just can't beat a player no more on one-on-ones. Sterling, I'm not going to say the word and use the word finish, but to me, he's a Premier League player, but from positions 6 to 15, that's more his level of a player in those sort of teams. That's where he stands. He's no longer what you say a top 6 player, because there's some good teams. Would he get into the Arsenal team? Well, he's there on loan, but really and truly, he only gets in there by default now because Saka's injured. And if Ranieri picks up his form, I think Ranieri can actually take his position and offer Arsenal more. Okay, so let's go for the list. Would he get into Liverpool's team? He played for them, but he'll nowhere near get into that team. Would he get into Arsenal's team? He shouldn't be there, so I'm saying no. Would he get into Nottingham Forest teams? Potentially. But even then, they have better wingers than him. And then would he get into Newcastle's team? No. Would he then get into Manchester City's team? They're the ones who bombed him out. No. Would he get into Chelsea's team? They don't even want him because they loaned him to Arsenal. You see, that's 5 teams already that I've just mentioned that he would not get into, but yet Arsenal was stupid enough to go and take him at the last minute because they were desperate. And that is why they haven't gone out and bought a striker. So that's what leads me on to that. Desperation. Arsenal were desperate for a right winger because they already gave away Reece Nelson to Fulham. Then they ended up with Sterling, and now they got nothing else apart from Ranieri. So when they go to a striker when they wanted Sesko, who scored last night, and so did Gyökeres, Arsenal are very picky. They're being more picky. Mikel Arteta has come out and said it already. He just felt that there was other areas in the pitch that needed to be addressed before the striker or the attacking position. And that's why there's no strikers at the moment. It's not because he doesn't want them, it's just because he felt other places in the positions that would needed to be done. But in the Champions League, Arsenal are just doing phenomenal. And if you compare it to other Premier League teams of the likes of an Aston Villa, who is going to go into the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make it through to automatic qualifications. They're not far from it, but all comes down to the last game. Manchester City. Now, this is the big thing. Manchester City have made 3 more signings. They spent well over 130 million this January transfer window. And people have been looking at saying, why hasn't Arsenal done that? City have problems. They've addressed it. Yes, they've addressed their problems, but it's addressing it is not going to help them potentially. So with their Champions League game they've got coming up, that's an all must win game just to stay in the competition to get in through to the playoffs. And when you get to the playoffs and the knockout round, then that's going to be difficult because it's just you don't know who you're going to get. You can end up with a Real Madrid, a Bayern Munich in that game. So the last game of the Champions League is so important for loads of teams. And we look at the league table now for the Champions League, you will see there's so many teams that can still go out. If you think about it, when you go to the knockout phases, that's going to be seeded. You've got there at the moment an Aston Villa, a Monaco, a Feyenoord, a Lille, a Brest, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, a Real Madrid that's in there. Real Madrid. And then you go to the unseeded places. That's a Juventus, a Celtic, a PSV, Club Brugge, Benfica, Paris Saint-Germain, who beat Manchester City yesterday. Beat them good and proper 4-2. A Sporting Lisbon with Victor Jokeres there, a Stuttgart. And then you go to the eliminated places. Manchester City, can you believe that? A team with the great old Rodri in it. Okay, he's injured, don't get me wrong. I know that, yes. But they got Haaland, they got Kevin De Bruyne, they got Phil Foden, they got Doku, they got Jack Grealish, £100 million player. That's 5 players I just mentioned. They got Bernardo Silva, I didn't even mention him. Carl Walker's off to AC Milan, so no one really cares. John Stone is injury prone as hell. They got Akanji, they got Nathan Ake, they got Ruben Diaz, they got Edison. So all these players who are multiple Premier League winners, who have won the Champions League, FA Cups, Carabao Cups, they won it. They won it all. But they are struggling this season. But Arsenal are not struggling. They are just lacking a natural goal scorer, and that's the difference. So when you look at it now, going to again the third season, when I say of the competing season, Arsenal are doing well. But sometimes we forget that and we just look at the one fundamental flaw for Arsenal is just a striker. That's the only flaw because Arsenal are doing superb. They really are. So I would rather be in Arsenal's position than in Manchester City's position with all that money. Because with our fan base, can you imagine what the outcry would be right now if we was in Manchester City's position with the amount of money that we have at our disposal? We go out and we look at, we think we fixed the issue by going buying a striker for 75 million, going buying a couple of defenders as well, and spending over 130, 140 million, thinking that our club is a big club and this is what we go and do. But really, it's like down to the last game for Manchester City. And yes, we're here to talk about Arsenal, but when I look at the matches that's got to be played, this is next week, Wednesday, the 29th. Manchester City have to play Club Brugge. So really, they're going to win that game. But it doesn't matter if they win that game because what City need is all these teams, as I repeat it again, a Juventus, a Celtic, a PSV, Club Brugge. Oh, this is where it gets interesting. So Club Brugge are in the knockout phase, unseeded. Manchester City play them at home. Now, if Club Brugge get a draw, City are out of Europe altogether. Club Brugge potentially just goes through. Where would you rather be? In Manchester City situation, thinking that you're going to get knocked out of Europe altogether with the hundreds and hundreds of £1 million worth of players at your disposal? Or would you rather be in Arsenal's position, pretty much qualified for the round of 16, don't have to go through the qualifying rounds of that as well, so it's a knockout phase, or just be automatically qualified without that issue? You look, then when it comes to later on in the Champions League, you're looking at those teams going, boy, at least we're through. And big teams are still going to get knocked out in the next phase of it as well. So the new Champions League format is great. Whenever you ever got to the last game of a Champions League, of game 6, game 5 and game 6. And it's kind of boring because the big teams have already qualified. So the last 2 games are just rubber ducks. It's just boring. Whereas this one, this is exciting because you're pretty much qualified. You're going to sit back and relax. Okay, it's going to be a kind of a boring game for Arsenal, but they still need to win anyway, just for winning purposes. But they're qualified, but I want them to win. But then you'd be watching a Manchester City game thinking, I hope you lose. I hope you lose. Or I hope you draw. And you don't even qualify. You don't have enough points. The greatest manager in the world that people keep on saying, or people say is Sir Alex Ferguson, shall I say. I would rather have Mikel Arteta at this moment in time. That's the difference. So sometimes we need to take a chill pill. So all I'm saying is the deficiency for Arsenal so far is they just don't have a recognised striker. That is it. And also the right winger as well. But even when Neri, who came on yesterday, he done all right for his moments. Sterling, there's something, I'm not going to say he's washed. He's just not the player I thought he was. In the beginning time for Mikel Arteta, I've done a video saying Arteta has his Sterling in Bukayo Saka, and I was proven right. In a sense, Sterling was good from what we saw at Liverpool. Then when he went to City, he looked good under Pep Guardiola. You take him out of a Pep Guardiola, he's not that great. So sometimes when you're in a good situation, he can make you look better than you really was. Jack Grealish, on the other hand, when in reverse, he looked good for Villa, winning fouls, being a leading charger man. Goes to City, he doesn't look good. So some things can be in reverse as well. Whereas Saka, you realise just how good he is when you watch Arsenal play. Sometimes we're just spoiled, and I think we've just been spoiled for the last few seasons. That our expectations have just gone now through the roof because we've seen a team that can challenge for the league, and they're challenging again this season. So well done to Arsenal for making it through to the last 16. I think you've done tremendous this season without a recognised striker. They are going after Sesko. Everyone's now talking about it. Everyone's now putting their 2 cents on it. And with a few days to go, can Arsenal do it? RB Leipzig saying they don't want to sell him. But I understand that. I think that's what a club needs to do, is to come out and say they don't want to sell. But secretly behind, if the right figure comes in, you sell him. Because it makes no difference if it's going to be now or it's going to be towards the end of the season. Yes, RB Leipzig still have a qualification to go through in the Bundesliga. They're out of Europe anyway altogether. But they want to get back into Europe, and they feel that with Sesko there, that gives him a chance of getting back into Europe, and then he can go. Goodbye. Or Arsenal just put the money down and say, listen, let's just do it now. Let's not waste any time. Okay, we understand you've got something to go for. We've got something to go for. Let me help you to help me. I'll help you with some money. You help me with a deal. And that's it, really. That's it. Arsenal on their way to the round of 16. Can't wait to see who they're going to get next week, Friday. Or actually, we're not going to go see who they're going to get next week, Friday, because that's when it's going to be the playoffs decision. Oh, we're going to see if Man City even get through. So what's your thoughts anyway of Arsenal's season so far, their season in the Champions League? Have you thought the Champions League has been a success, or do you think it's still a failure because Arsenal don't have a striker? And then we're not going to go any further than the last round of the 16 if we don't sign a striker. Or if Arsenal sign that striker, and it is Sesko, 6'5", a beast of a player who can use 2 feet, who's young, who's 21 years old, can he be the one to propel Arsenal in the Champions League to go further? But oh my God, could he be signed in time for the Carabao Cup? Going to Newcastle, only 2 goals down, with a recognised striker that would be on the bench more than likely, and then come on to help with Kai Havertz there? What's your thoughts? If we sign Sesko, does that make Arsenal a proper contender, and that gives Arsenal the right push? Because we do create chances, we just don't really put them away. What's your thoughts? Let me know. Have you enjoyed the show, or I just waffled on for far too long? Thanks for watching. I'm Ty Knight here for TK 24/7.